Hey everybody. So do ETs like offerings? I talk a lot about offerings and building acknowledgement with fairies and other beings. Extraterrestrials are kind of in that type of thing. Um, most galactics of another planet, offerings are not necessarily as important. They're off world, they're doing their thing. If they come in a ship or they astral travel in and they see an offering, it's more of like, oh, that's cool. You're acknowledging us. We can feel the energy of it, that type of thing. It's not a necessity to building relationships with galactics. Um, Fairies, on the other hand, it's very important way of showing acknowledgement and sharing your reality with them, your love, your energy, and embracing them, showing them compassion and helping them, inviting them into your space. Gods and goddesses are kind of the same way. Offerings are, it's all about acknowledgement, really. It's not about worship. I want to be clear about that. Two different words. When you make an offering, you're not worshiping something. If you're worshiping something, you're placing your sovereignty outside of yourself. None of this stuff that we do is about worship. It's about sharing, it's about unity, it's about oneness. Even the gods and goddesses who are benevolent will say, we are working with you. You are us. I am you. You are me in different forms, different states of consciousness and awareness, capabilities. And offerings are just a way to show that energetically you acknowledge them, which means that you acknowledge them. Therefore, they're invited and allowed to acknowledge you and work with you. And so you can do offerings to build a relationship based on acknowledgement, like, hey, I see you. I know you're there. Thank you for helping me. Here is an offering out of gratitude. No expectation of return. Offerings aren't about return. Offerings are about giving something for free, no expectation, just to show acknowledgement. If you're doing a quid pro quo, if you're giving an offering and saying, I will give you this offering if you do XYZ, be sure you know what you're working with. Some gods and goddesses do that type of thing where it's like, hey, if you give me an offering of XYZ, I will help you do this because they need the energy exchange type of thing. But when you're doing quid pro quos, that can get tricky. So I always say that offerings should be um, without expectation. I've given offerings to different beings and I've rarely been like, hey, I expect you to do this type of thing. It's not about that. If I have done that, it's been more like, you know, can you clear this energy out? I'm giving you this offering. Can you clear this energy and help me out? Those types of things. But do galactics? No. Extraterrestrials, we have to define extraterrestrials as we work with these labels. Some people believe extraterrestrials are galactics, so you can think from space, from other planets. Those beings don't care so much about offerings. They appreciate them, they appreciate the acknowledgement, but the extraterrestrials, the beings extra to Earth, inner Earth, higher vibrational beings, fairies, Sasquatches, all those beings. It depends on what you're working with. Sasquatches depends on the Sasquatch. Most of them that I've run into don't care about offerings. Uh, they have done things where they're like, "Hey, can you?" One of them was like, "Hey, can you go get me bananas?" And I went, "Why? Why do you want bananas?" And they're like, "Because we don't get bananas here." And it's true. We were in Ohio. They don't get bananas in nature. So I went and got bananas. And in that first encounter of them asking for bananas, um, I built trust because I listened to what they asked for and I actually did it. And when I came back, they're like, oh my God, you came back and you left the bananas where we asked you to. It wasn't about the offering. It was about seeing if I would listen and show gratitude and humbleness and uh, be willing to reach out like a hand of friendship type of thing, reach out and extend an arm or what I can't think of the, you probably know what I'm talking about, but there's an actual phrase, but like reach my hand out in friendship and build that connection. So the offerings for some beings aren't even about the offering, it's just about building that connection. Now, for other beings, for sprites, for gnomes, for goblins, for fairy beings, those who love to pull energy and eat the energy of things, the offering is like, oh, I'm going to get fed. I'm going to get something to eat type of thing. Like, I'm going to get a snack. Put that out. I'll take a snack. Put it, if you're working with beings who enjoy whiskey and mead and wine and that, they drink off of the energy, and you'll actually see them, that energy like affect them, their experience. And so for some beings it is about the actual physical thing, for others it's not, for others it's an acknowledgement, and for others it's they don't care. You know, you can make offerings to galactics, most of them are like, we're like you, we're physical, we're in a physical body. We're just higher consciousness connected to our multidimensional self. And we appreciate the offering, but you don't need to do that. Just don't fear us. That's the true acknowledgement. Don't fear us. Work on your fear, clear your fear, help the world, create unity. You know, I'm to a point where I don't make offerings to the gods and goddesses anymore. And I thought for a long time, I'm like, maybe I'm not, like, am I missing something? And they kept coming to me, and every time I'd be like, oh shoot, I forgot this at the grocery store, I forgot XYZ, I didn't make an offering. They're like, whoa, no, no, no. They're like, your light is your offering. You're gritting light all over the place. Your ability to do free service work is an offering, because I'm waking people to their energies and helping people. The spirit art that I do is an offering, even though there's an energy exchange. There's oftentimes a lot more put into it than the actual energy exchange. Uh, what else? I think those are like the three main things, but grading light is a big one. The educational part and the spirit art were big ones that they're like, don't worry about the offerings. The work I do energetically is the offering. So when I talk about Lady Death or Papa or Thor or Odin or whoever it is, they're like, that is the offering. That is the acknowledgement of energy that we need, because we need people to wake up to us, to not fear us, and in doing that work of, you know, creating less fear and bridging the gaps in that. So you can get to a space where you connect with them, and you don't have to do traditional offerings of oats and honey and food and all these different things, but that the work you do and just being is the offering, because then you grow into a space of vibration where you're no longer seen as like somebody who's you know, in kindergarten, so to speak. Think of it like you graduate high school and you're an adult, and then when you graduate high school as an adult, the teachers, you're finally allowed to call them by their first name. So for me, I've graduated high school. So when I work with Thor and Odin and them, I don't need to do the stuff I would have had to do in high school or before. I can be like them. Now, I'm not like them by any means energetically, but I can be more um, in a space where I'm not doing that other stuff, if that makes sense. Hopefully that analogy makes sense. But basically, like, there are things you have to do as you're building the friendships, as you're building the vibration, as you're integrating frequencies, as you're shifting yourself vibrationally. There are things you can do to help that, and things you can do to help the beings accept you, and offerings are one of those. It's just that not all of them care, so to speak, and some of them care a lot, like the fairies, the nature spirits care a lot. But then some of the other ones are just like, just don't fear us type of thing, and that's the galactics. Galactics are more just don't fear us. The less you fear us, that's really the offering, is working on yourself. So thank you for watching. Grateful for each and every one of you. Love you all.